Now you are.
Now I am, okay. What we're here tonight is to do a public forum on what is going to be happening in Granby, what is available for Granby, in as much as concerning the fresh water. You all saw this flyer, which we gave out to get everybody here tonight. Now, what we have for you is this summary, which you all should have. And if you need more, we can get more printed upstairs, but we had no idea how many people were coming. As I said, we're here to talk about the freshwater supply of Granby, what is changing, what has changed, and so on, to give all you people the information. And you can freely ask questions to us at any time by raising your hand, and we will answer your questions the best we're capable to. And we have the Economic Development Committee here, and Dave DeRocha from our Highway Department, who's also a civil engineer, to turn around and try and get you all your answers as possible. With that being said, in Granby, a number of wells, to include the public wells, are having issues. In this building alone, we've had to add a chlorinator. If you go up to the safety complex, we had to put in those bottled waters. In the highway department, they have bottled water because they can no longer use their well supply. Over on New Ludlow Road and Morgan Street, they recently put in a 8-inch pipe in Morgan Street because the groundwater was contaminated from the landfills. What is going on as we're progressing? We're seeing more and more areas of Granby. And this goes back as far as 2013. We have the reports, and we're going to show you of all the areas that were looked at from then until now, and give you a status the best we can on that. Is Granby having a water issue in all of Granby? No, not at this time. But in a large portion of Granby, we are. And the most economical way that as a committee we've looked at this to save you money and get you an alternate water source. Because if you have a contaminated well and you drill another well, what is the odds of you hitting another batch of water that's not contaminated? You could be drilling for nothing, you may get lucky. I'll put it at 50-50. Because I don't know which way the water flows underground, to be honest with you. Within Granby, if you took Granby's 26 square miles, 1/3 of the surface is already water, which produces a naturally high water table to begin with. When you have a natural high water table to begin with, when you sink your wells, a lot of the older homes in Granby have what's called a shallow well. A lot of the newer homes have a deep well. Well, the shallow wells get their water from more of the top of the ground than the deep ones at the bottom. Makes sense. But also, you have to consider your leach fields. Mother Nature, and the soil that it has, is a natural filtration system of your leach field. As the hazardous waste goes down, Mother Nature cleans it out. Well, if the water table is continuing coming up, that means there's less and less of a filter there. When there's less of a filter, there's more apt of groundwater contamination. In addition to that, with the increase of climate change, and I'm just giving you a quick briefing now before we go, they are predicting that we're going to get more surface water through stormwater. And Boston, using their test wells around the state to include Granby, has all documents of the groundwater is rising. So you're adding more water from the top, it's got to filter down, more water from the bottom coming up, those leach fields and anything else is getting compressed. So realistically, we looked at it, you people have an economic opportunity and a health and safety opportunity by getting an alternate fresh water source, which would be water from the Quabbin Reservoir. Briefly, and then we're going to go through it, for people who don't know it, there is a major project coming on Route 202. It's going to be starting at the South Hadley line, going all the way to Belchertown. It includes 16 miles of sidewalks. That means sidewalks on either side of 202. If you start talking about sidewalks, remember, now you're creating walls of water that's going to come down. It's not going to be freely dispersed like it is today. It's going to be concentrated. The second part about that is from Nashville Reservoir in Ludlow is Quabbin water, which feeds South Hadley District 1. The 16-inch pipe comes down West Street, Ludlow, East Street, Granby, takes a left on New Ludlow Road, and goes into South Hadley. That pipe's going to be replaced for two major reasons. When it was originally constructed in the 1950s, it has asbestos in it. We all know that asbestos causes cancer. In addition to that, that pipeline is leaking. When we first started talking with the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, MWRA, they had to do a calculation on the volume of water that Granby would require from them. When they did the calculation on Granby, they came back and said, Jay, don't worry about the volume. We're losing more water in that pipe right now than you're going to need. So that tells us something about there's plenty of water out there. But how do you get it into Granby? That is what the main Article 6 is about, bringing an alternate water source into Granby. Using the two major infrastructure changes, which is not going to cost the town residents a penny. The state's paying for 202, MWRA has got the pipeline. We're not involved. Unless we want to hook into the pipeline, then we got to pay to hook into it. And then run our own pipes from where we're going here. And that's what we'll be talking about.
Jay,
Yes.
we keep mentioning sidewalks going from Granby to Belchertown. They're doing the entire road too?
Yes.
Everything?
Everything. There'll be a bike. Route 202 on the plans that Dave and I have seen is going to be expanded 11 feet wider. That's 4 feet of sidewalks on either side and a 3-foot bike lane, right, Dave? That's your 11 feet.
You're saying these sidewalks are part of the problem, because they'll concentrate the water? Now,
Anywhere that water cannot be freely dispersed, it's going to become concentrated.
but do we even need sidewalks on 202? There's nowhere.
If you ask me my opinion, I'm going to say only within 1.5 miles of the school in either direction.
Right.
But that's a state highway. They have their own rules. We can give them input, but they have mandates from Boston.
It's federal too.
It's federal too.
ADA, accessibility requirements for people with handicaps and everything. And if you notice the little improvements they did around West Street, they put these handicap ramps in that go to nowhere. It's because it's a federal requirement.
Joe, you want to come up here? I don't know if,
Joe Fernie, 154.
yeah, but the thing, I don't know if they can hear you on GCam,
Okay.
is what I'm saying.
Okay, Joe Fernie, 154 Taylor Street. So my question is, so with the sidewalks, the state is paying for all of that, or are
Yes.
we paying for any of that?
No, the state's paying for
Okay.
it all.
Then I say if the state's paying for it, take it.
But here's
No.
the thing on the sidewalks, and I'll just throw this out. They're paying for the sidewalks, but they're not paying to clean the snow off. We're gonna have to do that. So we're looking at a bylaw that the property owner that's abuts the sidewalk has to clean the sidewalk, like other communities. Because there's no way the town can afford to get equipment to clean 16 miles of sidewalks.
Yeah, but then just to interject, that means that when Dave and his team blow snow, they need to blow that snow over the sidewalk. Otherwise, when they're pushing it off the side of the road, some of that's gonna go onto the sidewalk and make it deeper.
We don't maintain Loop 202, the state does.
Yep.
The state
Well,
does.
they'll do it then. Tell us.
Okay.
Yep, it'll be their responsibility, not the town's.
No, but what he's saying is, and that's true,
Yeah.
as the state plow goes by, they could
Fills the
pile an extra
sidewalk.
2 or 3 feet onto the sidewalk that the resident
Oh, yeah.
is responsible for.
But that's like on Route 33, Route 116. The state owns them. The residents in those towns gotta clean those sidewalks too. This is nothing new. It's new to us because we don't have sidewalks really.
Right.
But it's not new to those people because they already have them. Okay, as far as the soil in Granby goes, and I'll get off of this page because I don't really need it no more. The geological studies show there is basically 3 types of soil in Granby. It's called dense, which the farmers love because it holds the water in. So they don't gotta keep watering their plants because it stays dense. Then on the other side, there's the sandy stuff, that the water goes straight through real fast. Then in between the middle, they have, call it the average soil. In here, they have fancy names for it, but I don't know all the fancy names. I read all the reports, but the bottom line is if you go into it, there's 3 different types of soil and the limitations of the soil types. And see, here's some of the names of the different soils that come up. And all of these reports are available on the town website, so you can freely look at them. We've gone through and read them, and we're trying to consolidate and give you the information by the summary sheet in this forum, because we're not gonna sit and read page by page here, but they are available to all of you. Another major aspect of the soil, see, different associations involved, both soils, deep, sloping, they talk about everything. One thing I found interesting, which I didn't know about, lodgement till. I never heard of it till I read it. And this is what it is. This is where all our bedrock is coming from. For the how many people in here saw them blasting at the new library, blasting at the safety center to build those foundations? That's all solid bedrock. You can't put a leach field to go through bedrock. So the water's got to find its least resistance. And the bottom line is, water is going to find its least resistance to the groundwater table underneath, whether it's clean water or polluted water. It's just going to go there. And unfortunately, the water that we're having now is coming more polluted from the surface than it is ever before. And we will show you that. Now, you gentlemen, hop in anytime you want. Yeah, let me close this one too. And this is a report done in 2013. It's a very comprehensive report. And this is where a lot of the soil data and stuff all comes from. And again, this is on the town website, so you all can access it. What I'm going for is all the different study areas, to show you that this report covers the entire town of Granby. If you read this report, you will find some places that has good soil for drainage, and you will find other areas of town that have poor soil for drainage. But it has all been covered and it's freely there. And how do we want to address this? This is the bottom line question to y'all. Do we want to address the freshwater issue as a community? Or do you want to leave it currently is? Private wells, private leach fields, your problems are your problems. Or do you want to try and do it collectively so it's economically feasible for everybody? Because we all know if the groundwater gets contaminated and you don't have another source, you're not going to be able to sell that home or business. That is the bottom line economic feature that you have to realize. Who is going to buy anything? Or what bank is going to put a mortgage on anything that there's no fresh water? It's not going to happen. Okay, as I did this one, and I will minimize this one, and I'm gonna bring up climate change. These reports, again, are all on the town website. And basically, if you go through and you read all this report and everything else like this, and I'm not a scientist, and I don't even pretend to be close to it, but it says, we are warming the climate, we are going to get more stormwater, and the test wells that have been drilled shows the groundwater tables are coming up. So the groundwater is going down, the surface water is going down, the groundwater is coming up. So that natural filtration area we got between there is condensing. So how do we do it? Go ahead, Rich. Can you hear him okay, Al?
Rich Stomeraki. I kind of agree with you, but I don't really agree on your urgency to a point, because maybe Dave could answer. We haven't put in any new, or very few paved streets since 2013 in Granby.
Dave, I think, Rich, we're gonna get to that, and I think it'll be very clear to you when we tell you about the infrastructure changes coming to Granby and the opportunity that we have now and what's gonna happen.
Okay, one other question.
Okay.
I asked you before, does anybody have a rough idea? You keep saying that the groundwater is increasing. Now, how fast, how much is it increasing? I know it's different
Right.
in different parts of Granby. Is there some graph or something that shows, okay, it went up
We were
2 or
supposed-
3 inches here, a
we were
foot here?
We were supposed to have what's called a municipal vulnerability preparedness workshop in here, which we got a grant for, to get all those specific questions answered coming this Saturday. The town picked out 35 different people in the town with different skills and stuff to attend. Only 5 people replied they would attend. So we are forced to postpone that now for a couple more weeks and send out more invitations to do the workshop. This workshop is being paid for by the grant. It's gonna pay for breakfast, it's gonna pay for lunch, it's gonna pay for snacks, to have all these experts come in here and identify Granby's municipal vulnerabilities. And one of the major vulnerabilities, they told us already, is groundwater and surface water. So, can I give you the exact numbers tonight? The answer is no, I can't. Could I give them to you on Monday? Yeah, if we had the workshop on Saturday. But when you send out 35 invitations and only 5 come back, 5 positive and 1 negative, so that means 29 people didn't even bother to reply. And we see that at our annual and special town meetings for the people that go, on how poorly they're attending.
Right.
What can we do? Lead the horse to water? Can't make them drink it. So all we can do as elected officials is give all you people the information. You can make your own decision. We'll make recommendations, but the decisions are all yours. They're all yours. Like I said, we can either approach this issue as a community, or if we vote no on Article 6, then everybody's on their own.
What exactly is Article 6?
That's the alternate freshwater article.
And what is it? What does it say?
We're going to start funding piping to bring Quabbin Reservoir water into Granby. And we're gonna, as we go along, Gloria, we'll explain the finances and stuff and how we're going to do that. But it's to bring alternate fresh water into Granby, and the alternate fresh water would be coming from the Quabbin Reservoir. Like our neighbor towns around us, but we don't have it. But just to let you know, the 16-inch pipes that supply South Hadley come down West Street, Ludlow, East Street, Granby. They take a left at New Ludlow Road and go into South Hadley. So these pipes are already going through Granby. Granby is just not taking the advantage to tap into them. And these pipes were put in 1951, and they are scheduled to be replaced. Because like I said, they have asbestos in them, and they're leaking.
And who's going to replace them?
Them, not us. We're not paying to replace them.
The
Just-
state is going to replace them?
That's their responsibility. Just like when the state does Route 202. with the sidewalks. They're gonna pay to do it, it's their project, it's not ours.
Okay, and so if a pipe goes by your house, you have to pay to connect to the pipe?
If you elect to, the answer would be yes, but we're gonna get into that when we talk about how we're gonna maintain it through a water commission and so on. So a lot of these questions are premature as far as the way we have it outlined to give it to you. But the plan is, as far as the water pipes, it's optional. There's no requirement. If you need it, you get it. And if you get it, you become part of the water commission, you elect your own officers, you vote on everything yourself. What are your rates? What are you gonna do? You decide what you wanna do for yourself as a commission, just like South Hadley and other municipalities do.
Is every street in Granby gonna have a water running through it? A water pipe?
Initially, I'm gonna say Route 202, because it's the most economical way to do it, because the state will help us pay to do it. But eventually, if we have people in trouble on North Street because of the small lots, or we have people in trouble out in School Street and Forest Pond because of the contamination, the Water Commission can make that decision to run the pipes wherever they wanna go. That's their decision. Will the town help? Yeah, if you want us to apply for grants, but we're not gonna throw money in the pot, because the Water Commission's gonna have their own fund, just like the other water commissions do. And you elect, you elect your own officers, and if you're hooked up to the pipe, you get a vote. Okay, I'll move on here. That was climate change. This is an important point here on the stormwater that I wanna point out to you.
I have a question if I may.
Sure, go ahead. Just identify who you are.
Okay, Roger Bowder of Bainhurst Street.
Mhm.
You said that if we want to hook up to it, it would cost the homeowner or the business, whatever.
That would
Once
be-
you hook up, is there a rate each month that you're going to be paying for the water?
You would determine that, and we have an individual here on Morgan Street that's currently already hooked up. Joan, you wanna tell them how much you pay per month?
About, right now, it's $20 a month.
Right now, okay. And what would the hookup cost be?
I honestly don't have any idea, because we didn't wanna spend a lot of money doing surveys, getting all this engineering details, until we find out if the residents really wanted to do this.
Well, you spent money on this.
No, we didn't spend a thing on this.
We didn't spend anything on this, all these surveys and stuff?
No, we get it through grant money. And if people who don't know me, I love grants. I file for them all the time, that's why your streetlights are all going to LED. Of the,
We only
almost,
got one on our street.
I don't have any on my street, no lights, but all the lights in town are going to LED, and that will save us 2/3 of the energy bill on streetlights alone. 2/3 of the energy will be saved from LED lights. I don't wanna get too far off track, but we just put $300,000 of energy improvements in 4 of the municipal buildings at zero cost to you taxpayers. It all came from grants. Grants, incentives, and rebates.
Okay. Just a couple of things when you get to your section, Joe Fernie, 154 Taylor Street.
Mhm.
I would be curious if you know how much it costs to lay pipe per mile.
$250 a foot, Joe.
Okay, so that's 5,000 feet times 250, so what is that, $1 million a mile?
I'll do it for you right now.
1.25 million?
5,280 feet times $250 equals 1,320,000 to lay a mile worth of pipe.
Okay, so if we still have 45 miles to go for the whole town to benefit, at 1.3 million just to lay the pipe is gonna cost us $60 million roughly, or whatever it is, $50 million.
Actually,
Dave,
we're gonna become like Belchertown.
I have Dave say this something.
Yeah, I was just gonna add in, I think there's some sections of town that may never see water,
Right.
municipal water. There's areas of town that have plenty of good drinking water, And those areas probably will never, it will never be economical to serve the entire town. But you wanna serve the densest areas where there's pollution problems, where there's drinking water problems first. So, it's gonna be selective on where these pipes are run, depending on where we wanna go in the future with it.
And that would be, we'll let the water commissioner, but the main thing is, think of Route 202 as the spine like in your body. We get it up 202, people have choices to go either direction, wherever the problem is. If you don't have that choice, then you can't do anything. So like I said in the beginning, Article 6, your major decision on Article 6 is, do you want to fix the problem as a community, or do you want to go on your own way and you're responsible all by yourself? As we said, the pipes in the Quabbin are going to be replaced. Route 202 is going to be completely overhauled. The major intersections, everything is being paid for by the state. Mass DOT has told us that if we're ready to lay the pipe, prior to them putting the asphalt down, we have zero asphalt cost.
So in order to put the pipe on 202, the town has to pay for that?
Town has to pay for the water pipe,
Okay.
yes. And they can do it through, like the loan, and if you look at your sheet, for $1.2 million, the USDA is offering loans for both water and sewer at 2% for up to 40 years. So if we were to use the whole 40 years for this $1.2 million, it would cost the town $3,634 a month.
And that loan rate go up?
No, once you lock the loan in, you're in. It's like doing a mortgage.
Okay, but at 1.2 million, if it costs us 1.3 million to lay a mile of pipe, we're laying less than 1 mile of pipe, is that correct?
Beginning with, see, the whole secret is to stay ahead of Mass DOT, so it doesn't cost as much money. And one of the major projects on Mass DOT is coming from South Hadley towards Belchertown, but the major portion is the Five Corners intersection. We just want to get past Five Corners for right now. And there's two issues by doing that we can fix. South Hadley and the MWRA has an issue with it. Where the pipe ends at South Hadley, the water's all stagnant because it's a dead-end pipe. If you go over to Morgan Street, the new 8-inch pipe they put in for health and safety of the Granby residents because of the landfill contamination, that's a dead-end pipe. So they're more than willing to help us connect South Hadley District 1 right through Five Corners to go over to Morgan Street, because that's what? Now you got a loop. There's no more stagnation. They love the idea. They're promoting the idea. Senator Eric Lesser has drafted legislation to get us into the MWRA. And one of his representatives, I'm told, will be at the special town meeting on Monday. If you people vote yes to 6, he'll file the legislation. If you vote no on 6, it goes in the trash. I don't know how to put it any simpler than that. These people are all willing to help us. The question is, are we going to make a commitment first? Because nobody is going to help anybody unless you make your own commitment. And we're looking at a commitment of $1.2 million to get the water through Five Corners, to get us past where Mass DOT is going to be doing their work. Go ahead.
Mary Ann Munger from Smith Ave. I'm confused now because you said the work was gonna go all the way to Belchertown?
Yeah, it's scheduled to, but in segments.
Not the water pipe.
Right, but, so when will the work be done from Five Corners to Belchertown?
That is on a Mass DOT schedule. When Dave and I went to the meeting, initially they said it was gonna be from 2019 to 2022. Then the state figured out, on 1 January, they posted they are $526 million short of expected revenue. So they're pushing the project off to probably 2025 right now. The smaller sections they do for us, the better it is for us. It gives us longer time to put in for yearly grants to pay for it, so we don't have to pay for it. So I like it being stretched out. Does that make sense?
Yes, but then it means in like 2025, if we were gonna do another mile, we would need another $1 million.
If the people wanted to go farther and we couldn't get grant money, the answer would be yes. But like on the, it's the Mass Works grant and the Strat grant. Those are available every year. And as far as Five Corners here, that's zone general business. That makes that eligible for economic grants. That'll help defer some of your tax income. Because right now, the only way Granby survives is on our residential tax money. We have very, very little business. And we can put a lot of businesses down here away from everybody that lives out in the countryside.
Rich Domeraki, Vassar Street. I just want to point out about the 5-year rule, that once the state does 202 in stages, we can't do anything to those roads for 5 years.
That's correct.
The second point is, going from Pleasant Street to Morgan Street to New Ludlow Road would be about $2.3 million.
Now, that's about it's about $1 million from Pleasant Five Corners to, because he already comes up halfway up Morgan Street already, the 8-inch pipe.
does?
Yeah, because you can ask Joan there, she lives on Morgan Street. Because that was the landfill, and we're gonna connect to that.
Yeah, I think it was a mile just on Pleasant Street, and then a little, a
It was
portion.
figured out to be about $1 million when we did it, when we went through the finance committee and the calculations, the estimates. From Five Corners to Morgan Street connection would be about $1 million. And we're looking at $500,000 for Max Work grant, $500,000 from the STRAP, which is Small Town Repair and Assistance Program grant. That's not even counting the economic grant. And again, all our numbers are based upon $250 a foot for pipe, and that includes asphalt. If we get DOT to do it, we don't pay asphalt. But if we go off into Pleasant Street, we gotta pay for asphalt. So that's why we'd rather use the higher number. Because we don't wanna come back and say, we're short money, we're short. We'd rather come back money and say, hey, we did a better job than we thought. Here's some money back for you. That's why our estimates are high. And we prefer them to be high.
Would a phase 2 project make more sense to continue to go down 202 where the state pays for the road? And we
could do that, but then you're gonna lose that loop, which they need to connect for the water circulation. And that's one of the things they really like about the idea, is we're fixing 2 of their problems. Because don't forget, I said the pipe comes down East Street. It makes a left-hand turn on New Ludlow Road. Once they get the pipe laid from the Quabbin or from Ludlow to South Hadley, we're asking for an outlet at that intersection that will be Granby owned. The water wouldn't be going through South Hadley anymore. We become our own entity. But until they develop and replace that pipe, we're gonna work with South Hadley until that's done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because why pay for something we don't have to? Just for the sake of doing it. The next part, oh yeah. If you look on this, what is stormwater? It's rainwater that falls on paved streets, lawns, parking lots, and sidewalks. It becomes polluted stormwater. And more impervious surfaces, the more stormwater runs off and impact and receiving the water bodies. So the more hard surface you have, the more water that collects, and it just keeps going down. If you want a perfect example of it, I can do one right here.
So if we have sidewalks, wouldn't that mean that the water coming from on the sidewalks is polluting the water surfaces?
That is correct. But also, think of the sidewalks as dams or walls. I'll show you in a second here. Yeah, I got this little program. Yep, little program here. Let me find a good spot. Yeah, I'm looking for, it looks like a good spot right here, as good as any. Let me bring my little guy down here. This is Granby as it is today. Right now, any of the polluted water, right there for the stormwater that was described, gathers on here. It can go on either side of the road, non-concentrated at all. It's freely dispersed. It goes to the lowest area. Now imagine that with sidewalks and curbs. You know what's gonna happen? I got a picture here for you. And this picture was taken last Thursday. That's what no sidewalks, no nothing, current as it is in Granby today.
Is that when we get torrential rain?
Yes, this is the corner of Kendall Street and Route 202. To give you the whole thing, I'll go around in circle for you now. That's on School Street. High water table, it's not going nowhere.
That's Carver, Brown Ellison Park.
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong place. This is a village center. Remember you saw that lake they had there? This is it from the other side.
But did that come from the road? There was a
That came from
torrential rain.
everywhere, but anywhere there's a hard surface, it doesn't get absorbed in. So it has to move over to somewhere that does. And this is what Dufresne's Park looks like. We all know Dufresne Park. This is Chicopee Street. They had to close Chicopee Street. Why? Now look at Chicopee Street.
That's Meadow Glen.
They gave me the names of the streets and I put them on the slides. I'll have to change though, but I put down what they give me. But it's the idea is,
Best day I
Dave.
had on Chicopee Street.
Dave,
was it?
let him do whatever he wants.
Raymore, 17 East Street.
Okay, let's keep it down.
I would think that the state would have to put some kind of drains in these low areas where the water is gonna collect. Somehow they're gonna have to take care of the stormwater,
Well,
I assume,
they are going to put,
and dump it into these areas where it's going now, but being more controlled. I would think they'd have to
it's
do
gonna
something.
be more controlled, but it's gonna be more concentrated with pollutants.
Yeah, well, I'm sure of that, but
I
it's not gonna stay in the street. It's
They
gonna
will
have to.
put stormwater improvements in. However, we've had the wettest year on record this
Yeah,
last
that's
year.
Yeah.
And I've been here 20 years and I've never seen the water flow over 202 at School Street before. It was like a river flowing down the intersection of 202 and School Street.
Yeah.
I've never
It's
seen
not a wet
that.
year.
I mean, in torrential downpours in the past, we've had other areas that flood. Upper Chicopee Street, where we closed, has flooded one time in the last 20 years. It did it again this last week.
Putting those pipes is gonna alleviate all that?
No, because it won't alleviate that at all. But what it will do, it'll guarantee that when you turn your faucet on in your house, you're hooked up to the pipes, you're gonna get fresh water.
I got a good well system now.
Some people in Granby do, some do not. Being honest with you, some people are already being put on pipes. Some people are putting chlorinators in their houses. Some people are putting water softeners in their houses because of all the minerals. Some people, the new way, the people on Center Street, they explained to me, they're putting ultraviolet light on their water to kill the bacteria before they can use it. So the question comes back again. Do we want to address the issue as a community, or do everybody want to be on their own? Because if you're on your own, you're on your own. And with these two major infrastructure projects coming up, which we're not paying for, we have an opportunity to get fresh, alternate water from the Quabbin Reservoir at minimal cost. As it states on the sheet you got, the $1.2 million sounds like a big number, but if you spread it over the USDA loan of 2% for 40 years, it comes down for a payment by the town of $3,634. And if you want to compare that I believe on your second sheet, let me check. Oh, you got it back page. It's on the back page. Did I put that on the energy savings? Yeah. If you go to your back page under solution for initial cost, on one, and it says triple I, the energy improvements we did this year alone in Granby, the state energy engineers said we're gonna save 8% of our energy costs in calendar year 2019. That's the safety complex, the highway department, this building and the old library. Got $300,000 worth of energy improvements at no cost to you. We did it all with grants. If you look at the annual savings, we're gonna save $34,886 this year just in energy savings. And we're not done yet. My goal is to hit 20% energy savings from the energy committee. That's our goal. Right, Lil? Yeah, she's in the back, I know that.
How
So,
long are you gonna be our select board?
you keep trying to tie me that in there. I said I'd get you out of trouble for 3 years, but Gloria wants me to live here forever. I think Lil does too. Let's moving on here.
Just, Joe Fernie,
Yeah.
154 Taylor Street. Just a quick question, because I don't really understand how the water's gonna get from the Quabbin without us paying for a lot more miles down 202 in terms of piping. Is it coming from some other place?
No, it's coming from the intersection of East Street and New Ludlow Road.
How is the,
Because South Hadley gets their water from the Quabbin, is that why?
That's why. They get their water, their pipe's already laid. That pipe has to be replaced. So when they replace that pipe, as long as we're a member of the MWRA, we'll say, hey, at the intersection of East Street and New Ludlow Road, will you put an outlet there so we can connect our pipes to it? Because we're a member of it. And you people will make that decision on Monday. If you vote yes for Article 6, which is this freshwater supply, Senator Eric-elect Lesser has already drafted the legislation to put Granby in the MWRA. If you vote no, he throws it in the trash can. Okay.
I think, Rich Domerak, I think Joe may not understand that we'll only get Quabbin water if we do phase 2, connecting the center of town.
Actually, it's phase 3, to be honest with you.
3, what's 2?
2 is the connection of 5 corners. Here, I'll show you.
Well, whatever, that's phase.
Well, yeah, but I don't mind showing you. We're gonna get to it eventually. We're going a little out of order as we planned it, but I'm letting you guys run the show. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, make it a little larger for you. Can you see it in the back row?
Yeah.
Okay, see if I can make it a little better for you. What? Why? I moved too quick. Okay, here's phase 1. This will cover us from the South Hadley line to the end of where DOT is gonna do Route 202. Okay? That's $1.2 million. Phase 2 is coming out of 5 corners here, going down Pleasant Street, then going down Morgan Street, and hooking up to that 8-inch pipe. And we're planning on paying the $1 million from that, one $500,000 grant for Mass Works, which Granby hasn't applied for, so we're at the top of the heap to get it. And the STRAP grant for another $500,000 for the same reason, we haven't applied. And that's one thing when you work with grants, they like to equal them out. Not one community's gonna get them all. And if we haven't applied for them, we're on the top. As long as we show a justifiable need, which we are showing by contamination and pollution, which a lot of the state is gonna cause. So we're saying, hey, you're hurting us, you need to help us too. And then phase 3, this will happen whenever that pipe is replaced. So in the interim,
That's the phase that connects to Quabbin?
yes, it connects to the intersection of East Street and New Ludlow Road.
Okay, so the pink would be roughly $1 million, you said?
Yes.
And what would the white be roughly?
This one here,
Yeah.
we haven't calculated it yet because we don't have a time frame what we were to do it. And we're looking at doing phase 1 and phase 2 now, so we're using today's dollars now. If I gave you a figure for phase 3 and they don't do the pipes to the Quabbin for 3 or 4 years, I don't want you coming back to me and say, hey, you said it would cost this much, how come it's costing us this much now?
Okay, so phase 2 really doesn't connect to anything, huh?
Yes, it does. Phase 2 connects to the water pipes on Morgan Street that feed South Hadley. So that creates that entire loop.
Well, that's Quabbin water, right?
Yes,
So why would we need 3? Why don't we just continue on Morgan Street?
because we want to be independent of South Hadley. The whole thing is to be our own water district, our own water commission.
We could do that, like, stay on the pink line?
No, because now you have to negotiate your water rates with South Hadley. We'd rather negotiate the water rates for our residents by ourselves, instead of somebody else taxing something on top of it.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
That's the reason why.
Jeff Lawson, Burke Lane.
Yep.
So phase 1 on the South Hadley line is gonna, their pipe ends at the South Hadley line, South Hadley side? We're
It
at that
currently
right there?
ends there right now.
Right there?
And we're just, it's a 16-inch pipe, that we're gonna put ours right onto it. It'll most likely have a valve there, so they can turn it on and off when they need to and flush it and all that stuff. And then we just bring it past to where the 5 corners work from Mass DOT is being done.
And then we'll cap it right at the end there?
That's right. And if that's the people wanna leave it there, they leave it there. If the people decide they wanna move it forward, we move it forward. The people are the deciding factor. But before you can move anything, you've gotta get it here first. And that's what we're trying to do, at the least possible cost of 1.2 million to get it here. Go ahead.
Suzanne Logic, 104 Emer Street. I was wondering if you calculated the cost per month per household.
No, we haven't, because we were using Joan's figures and what she's paying for South Hadley. Because, well, initially, we really don't know. Because if the pipes come in and nobody uses any water off it, there's no bill for the water.
No, I mean the 1.2 million.
The 1.2 million is infrastructure.
Right, which we're gonna pay 36, 34 for per month?
Yeah.
Right, so that's for the whole town.
That's for the whole town.
So I'm wondering if you figure that out per household.
Bill, how many houses?
About 2,100.
Okay, 2,100. I'll do this for you. What was it, Bill? 36,
34.
34 divided by 2,100. You would be contributing $1.73
Per month, yeah.
per month. And we're not looking at a tax hike for $1.73 per month.
So my point is, I think this is not as much money as it may look like.
No, 1.2 million looks like a
There's
lot.
for it.
Right,
Okay.
1.2 million looks like a lot,
Yeah.
but working with the finance committee, they said, make it like their mortgage payment, so they'll understand it easier. So that's why we broke it out into the monthly payment for the town, like a mortgage. Now, if you wanna break it down per household, because Bill is one of our assessors, he knows all this stuff. It's $1.73 per
But-
household.
But there's no tax increase planned for this.
40-year
Make,
loan?
make that clear.
Yeah, there is no tax increase planned for this project at all.
Anthony Serini, 3 Cedar Drive. Probably about 20-something years ago, I stumbled across a Pioneer Valley Planning Commission study from 1960.
Yep.
The master plan. I don't know if any of you came across it.
I've seen it,
The
and some of it's
town-
outdated.
The townspeople rejected the line coming from Belchertown straight down 202, which they would have paid 90%, I think, for it at the time. So that's just one thing to keep in the back of your mind, that we had the opportunity in the 60s to do
Yep.
this. Have you studied or looked into what the ISO rating for fire hydrants?
The fire hydrants will go wherever the water pipes go.
Okay, so where these proposed lines are, and when you tie into phase 3, those streets would have fire hydrants.
Wherever the water pipe mains go, get fire hydrants.
So theoretically or possibly, the homeowner that's serviced by that fire hydrant could get a reduction of their.
They would get a reduction in their home insurance, because you all know they ask you, how far are you from the nearest hydrant or water source? So if there is a hydrant closer to your house, you're gonna get a reduction in your home insurance. The answer is yes.
And let me just
Go
throw this
ahead.
one more thing out. Had we accepted that water from 1960, think of the money we would have saved in the fire department, not having to buy tankers and additional engines. The town would have saved.
There is a lot of cost saving, just like Dave said. We have pumps and generators out there that stockpile the water for needs for the fire department and for everybody else that needs it. Those all go away, because these water pipes are pressurized. It's all pressurized water. So all you gotta do is turn your faucet on and it comes out. And my wife loves it. You know why? She told me that if we lose electric power, she can still flush the toilet. That's what my wife told me. That was her answer when I came. Go ahead.
Marion Munger from Smith Ave.
Yeah.
So, since this is such a limited project, these 3 phases, say, there's not that many households that are on those lines. What is the benefit to the town that you see immediately happening? Are you hoping that there would be more business development in the Five Corners area?
That is one of the big things we're looking at for economic development, the Five Corners area, because businesses don't want to come in here because they have no water. Five Corners has sewer. Five Corners has natural gas. If Five Corners have water, it will be prime commercial development, because those are the 3 things they want. And currently, we don't have all 3.
So the line would not go all the way to Crescent Street? It wouldn't go to the fire?
Every year, we're gonna put in for grants, every year. If we get the grants and we stay ahead of Mass DOT, it can extend any direction up 202 that the townspeople wanted to do. Because we're gonna go through this process year after year after year. Once we cannot stay ahead of Mass DOT, well, we kind of lost our incentive, we lost our advantage. But before you can spread the water out, you gotta get it here first. And this project is designed to get it here. First, through South Hadley, then secondary, our own entity when they replace the pipes that feed the Quabbin down. As the gentleman said, they had the opportunity in 1960. They chose not to do it. I've heard many people lately telling me about how the town should have built the new junior senior high school a number of years ago. We wouldn't have the problems today. It's all up to the voters. It's not up to me. Our job as your elected officials is to give you the facts. We can give you a recommendation, but you make the decisions, not us. And on Monday, 4 February, when you get to Article 6, again, if you say yes, we move on. When we move on, the grant process moves on. And Senator Eric Lesser moves on for MWRA. If you say no, all of that stops. So it's really your decision. And this is the same thing we're going to be doing at the special town meeting. But I don't think they're going to give us this much time as we're having here tonight. That's why we're doing this public forum, to try and help everybody along. Because our hope is to, if you believe what we believe, you're going to all show up on Monday, 4 February, and help us with the other people. Because if you're convinced this is a good idea, and don't show up on Monday, 4 February, and it gets voted down, what are you going to say to yourself? I guess I should have gone, huh? Too late then. If this project dies or happens, on Monday.
Jay, does that require a majority vote or 2/3?
I believe it's a majority, because it's a financial consideration. It's not a bylaw change or something like that. I kinda got off track following you guys, but again, you know, whatever you want, we'll give you. I gave you, let me see what I got here. I gave you the pipes. Oh, here's another thing of grants we can put up for. It's Governor Baker, it's called the Community Compact. You list out your top 2 highest items, and then you get funded for grants. Again, we're looking at all possibilities for grants. We're even looking at energy grants. Why? As we explained, it's an indirect cost benefit. You can reinvest the money you're saving into something else. We're trying to get you more bang for your buck. You're already paying for this in state taxes. Do you want some of it back or not? That's a bottom line question to ask yourself. That's where the grant money comes from, is the state tax money. If you don't take it, I guarantee you towns like Holyoke, Chicopee, and so on are all gonna take it. Or maybe I should say, inside 128 will take it, right? It's probably more of the point. But, guys, what do you think? Think I've done enough today? Or want to go and ask some more? You want to add to it?
No, I'd like to hear more from the audience if they have any other
If I
concerns.
have other questions.
Yep. Again, you have the summary in front of you, we have, and we went through it. They're a little out of order, because that's the way you ask your questions, and we're here to try and help you. It's your decision. I think we should go for it, or I wouldn't be up here, because I think it's beneficial. You're gonna get fire hydrants, you're gonna get an alternate fresh water source at a minimum cost. Will this ever happen again? Yeah, I would say in another 70 years, when they replace the pipes they're putting in the ground from the Quabbin, or they come back to do Route 202 again, you might get a chance in another 70 years. As the gentleman there that said, they did it in the 60s, and here, 2019, I don't know if they did anything in between there or not. Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Fernie on 154 Taylor Street. So what you're really saying is that this is a long-term incremental strategy to bring it here, and this
Disperse it,
this
add
could
it.
take 20 years or 25 years to cover what we have to cover in the town.
And we like to cover it all in grants, so the slower Mass DOT is, the better I like it. Because it gives us more time to get more grant money every year, so it doesn't come out of a requested money from your tax money.
And on Monday, we're talking about approving a loan. We're not talking about taking free cash out.
We're not taking free cash, we're not taking
Or
stabilization,
or
we're not taking
stabilization.
anything away from you.
Okay.
As the lady had pointed out, when she figured out, $1.73 of your tax money you currently pay to the town is gonna go pay for this project.
Well, that's per month.
Am I right or wrong?
No, I agree, but that's per month.
That's per month.
$25 a year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
That's what the finance committee said, and that's what the select board said, this is a no-brainer to do. But elected officials don't make decisions, we only make recommendations. We need all your help to get this through and passed, and we'll answer any question you have. This is a segmented project. Go ahead, sir, you haven't spoken.
Bob LaFleur, 122 Pleasant Street. I've kind of got a vested interest in this one here, but I'm not planning on hooking up to this thing. We all know we've destroyed the planet up to this point, and it's going to get worse. This is a great insurance policy for anybody in the town as a whole. If your water does go bad, that you can hook up to this system eventually and not have to pay the whole bill yourself. So it's kind of like paying it forward a little bit. I was kind of hesitant initially, real quick, because my kids are grown and everything. I don't have any kids in school. But I know that bringing a good school into Granby is going to bring other folks that want to be in a nice small town. So I'm kind of paying it forward with that too on the property tax. Not real happy about it, but I'm paying that. So if you don't invest in your community, it's just going to fall apart. And we, 91%, according to the fiscal year 19 plan, of our taxes go to paying for everything in here. We're not getting the money from businesses, so if we can attract any kind of other businesses, I think it's a good thing. That's my piece.
Yep, and as the summary says in the top line, quote unquote, we're calling this Granby's freshwater supply insurance policy. To make sure we have it. It's the top line we put on it. We didn't know what else better to call it. Go ahead.
Do you have the text of Article 6 that you could just put up for us?
Yes, I do. I have it in this article this document right here, which is the document that we sent out for everybody, and the text of Article 6 is right there, right under location. It says, see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds, transfer from stabilization, fund, borrow, or bond, $1,200,000 or greater or lesser amount for the purpose of funding the extension of the water line from South Hadley down Route 2 to Finns Hill and Pleasant Street to Morgan Street, or take any other action regarding thereto. That's what we've been saying. Now there's a bunch of legal jumbo mumbo in there so that people aren't restricted, that there's no control. But that's the article you'd be voting on.
Well, that says you're taking it from the stabilization fund.
No, that's a generic article. It gives you a choice. You can take it from the stabilization. You can bond it. I'm gonna tell you right now, to take out 1.2 million on a bond is crazy, because it costs you like $60,000 to $90,000 just to create a bond. So you'd be paying almost it in bond. We're gonna borrow this from USDA. But that is a generic statement, and you will find that, I think I have it right here.
Yeah, I think, Jay, that's the warrant, on the actual article, I think if you're bonding for it, it'll say bond.
I think I have the article right here for all of them. Let me get one of these up here. Scan this out, Board of Selectmen. I think it's under meetings, 2019 special town meeting is the warrant. And if you look down this warrant, when it talks about anything for money, it says the same words. See, number 4. Available funds transfer from the stabilization fund, borrow a bond or a greater letter amount for the purpose of funding removal of trees. And the next one. Available funds transfer from the stabilization fund, borrow a bond, $13,500. Who is going to take a loan out for $13,500? But that's just normal language the municipalities use when they do their financial transactions. It's the same on every single article in the warrant. There's nothing specific. So don't let that thing fool you.
Bob, before again, so why can't you be specific in the wording for each article?
I don't have an answer to that, because I didn't make the articles up.
Well, what has happened in the past, when they do the warrants, they write up these warrants, and they don't know all the facts when they do the warrants. But normally, when they do the articles, sometimes the articles will be different from
We'll
the
be more
warrants.
specific.
Now, that's one thing I don't like either. I never agreed with that. When they got to the final article, if you're gonna bond for it, you should say you're gonna bond for it. Not take it out of stabilization or anything else. You should be specific when you get to the article, because the taxpayer should know whether you're gonna bond or take it out of stabilization.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. These are the way they were written up, with the finance committee and the town administrator. And you can see they all say exactly the same thing when it comes to money. This is generic way they do it. Maybe we should tell them to change it. We have the voice of the people. You tell them to tell us what you want.
Because it's always brought up at a special town meeting. Someone says, what are you gonna take, where are you gonna take the money from? You have 3 or 4 different choices there.
Yeah. Our plan is USDA 2% loan. That's our plan. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here telling you that. And the people that know me, I just give you the facts, no BS.
Are one of you gentlemen from the finance committee?
No, nobody here is from the finance
No.
committee. But they will be on
Yes.
Monday night.
Okay.
The finance committee will be there Monday night.
But too late to reword the article.
Yes, because they're already published in the newspaper. And once they get published in that, then the hearings go on and the special town meeting go on. So they come in. I mean, if you are worried about anything else, if you write up that any way you want and say, Madam Moderator, I'd like to submit an amendment to Article 6 and cross everything out except loan, you're free to do that. You're free to do that. That's not a problem. Joe?
Just a different perspective is that when you put this language, it gives the voters flexibility.
Yes.
So the select board may have thought, well, we're gonna borrow. The voters may say, I don't wanna borrow, or I don't wanna bond and raise my taxes. I'm gonna take it out of stabilization. If you limit it to bond, and then you wanna switch it to something else, then we have to go through all the procedural aspect of
Completely
having a discussion, to vote to approve the modification. This way it gives people the flexibility to basically approach how they want to fund the article.
That's a good way to put it, Joe, but like I said, when we get to the special town meeting, as you know, anybody in the audience can amend any article the way they want, then they have a vote for, do you want to amend this article, yes or no? If the answer is yes, the old article goes away, and then we vote on the new article.
To follow up on Joe's point, if you didn't have the vague language in there, and you made a motion to take it out of stabilization at the town meeting, and it wasn't on that warrant, we would have to call another town meeting, warning the general
I
public
understand. I got it.
that we could do it this way. Because if it wasn't specific, or specifically on there, you couldn't take it out of stabilization, because we warned the people, we said we were gonna bond, and now you changed it, it wouldn't be allowed by the Attorney General.
So the motion to change it comes at that meeting, then who votes on the motion to accept that change?
I'll be the voters at that meeting.
At the meeting, okay. I got it. Good.
Well, there is a magic word in there that says or, O-R. You can do any of them,
Right.
so it doesn't commit you to one specific one.
Like they say, part of this process is they have to put these articles in the warrant in the newspaper and advertise them for so many days. Then you have to go to a public hearing. We did have a public hearing on 2 January, I believe, for the first 2 articles, because they were bylaw changes. Because bylaw changes require public hearing, financial decisions do not. So the first 2 articles had to go to public hearing. Then you gotta go to so many more days to special town meeting by Massachusetts general law. We're just following the law along the way and trying to carry as much with it as we can to get done at one time. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, Jeff Lawson.
Jeff, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Jeff Lawson, Burke Lane. So assuming, let's say it passes on Monday, what kind of timeline we're looking at for stage 1 to be shovel ready and starting to break ground on that? I mean,
That depends on Mass DOT. To be perfectly honest with you, we're gonna be right ahead of them.
is it the 2025?
No, it wouldn't be that far out. It'd be more like 2019 to 2020, right, Dave?
Yeah, the first project they're interested in is getting from South Hadley to Five Corners.
And that's High Street. They wanted, they were already buying land for High Street, up to High Street, right? From what I was told. They're going in with letters to the people from the South Hadley line up to High Street or Pizza Palace, saying, we're coming through and we're gonna buy so much of your land. You know, this is what we're offering. When they go by the senior center, we gotta give it to them, because we're a municipality, we don't get no money from the state. So all out here, it's 11 feet wide, we'll cut it in half and call it 5.5 feet. 5.5 feet of the roadway or the parking lot is gonna be taken away from them. We have to give it to them.
So
Because,
we're talking utilities that have been moved and everything?
yeah, a lot of that can happen. And that's in the state budget, that has nothing to do with us. The state is budgeting all of that. Because as far as I'm concerned, I explained to you, if we had the sidewalks down here where it's zoned general business, and we had them 1.5 miles on either side of the school, that's fine with me, to be perfectly honest with you. But, as Dave said, the state and the federal government have their own regulations. And if they make those regulations, we have to follow them. Somebody way in the back, I don't think I've heard from yet.
So I'm not a resident, but I do run the water department in South Hadley, and I was wondering if I could speak.
Oh, I have no problem with you speaking. Was that Steve?
Would you please come up front so we can see you?
I'll stand if you want. So I'm Jeff Sear, I actually run the water department in District 1 in South Hadley.
Right.
Come up front, please. Thank you.
Got it, come on, Jeff. I really didn't want to do this one.
I can pretty much know what you're gonna say, Jeff, and MWRA told us to get a commitment from the town before we did any negotiation.
Sure, no, and that's fine. So, just a couple points of clarification. So this has been ongoing for many years. I think back in 2013, the business district was established up here at Five Corners.
I don't know when it was established, but
So at that time, they had contacted us, I'll say me, and we had talked about public water at that time.
okay.
And at that time, and to this day, the South Hadley Fire District 1 is not allowed to extend
That's correct.
our water past district lines.
And you are correct.
So Morgan Street went in only because
Health
of
and safety.
a contamination issue, that's correct, and that's when Waste Management put in that water main to those people.
That is correct.
So in your proposal, you're proposing that you're gonna connect to water mains in South Hadley without even having permission to do so. You have legislation that's supposedly with Senator Lesser right now.
MWRA
Yeah.
told us to see if the town would make the commitment with the money, because nobody's gonna negotiate with the town until the town has made a commitment.
Sure.
And that is the reason why nothing has gone forward that, because we're doing exactly what MWRA, what Senator Lesser and the town attorneys have told us to do.
Sure. So the pipe that comes from Quabbin now is owned by Hadley, not by
That is
Quabbin.
correct. You are
And
correct.
it's actually in pretty decent shape. The
Well,
cost to replace it, it does not leak more than what you're gonna use for Granby. I think you stated that earlier. We do leak detection on it every year.
Well, according to Beth Card at MWRA,
Okay,
she's the one that gave us the information.
okay,
And Fred Lasky,
sure,
the executive director
okay.
of MWRA, gave us the information.
So in your proposal, when you become your own water system, what is MWRA's charge to Granby to become a member community of the MWRA?
They told us they would negotiate that with us after the people made a commitment. So basically what Jeff is saying, there are still a lot of things to be negotiated, but nobody will negotiate with us until there's a commitment.
Okay,
And if the people vote for the 1.2 million, it sits in a pot. And then the town administrator and people will make the negotiations with the appropriate people.
sure.
And then we'll go forward from there.
So right now, you're not looking for a commitment from South Hadley to supply that pipeline at all?
Nope. Nope.
Even though you want to connect to it?
We'd like to,
Okay.
but the people have to make a commitment. Then when we have to be brought into the MWRA because of legislation, as you know.
Sure.
So since none of that's done, we're not bothering your office at all. Because we've already been told, a lot of people, we don't want to talk to you until you get a commitment from the town.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So we make a commitment,
Yes. And then we go to negotiate.
then we go to negotiate, but the cost in negotiation is way out of whack, and then we're in a commitment already.
No. We don't have to go forward with this at all. We've been given these numbers, okay? These numbers is what we're projecting to be on the high side from what we're given.
Okay.
If you approve this commitment, you are giving the town permission to go out and negotiate with these other agencies to get it done for that amount of money. We're not asking for any more money. Because, well, I know you do pilot programs, or pilot agreements, right? Payment in lieu of taxes?
Us?
Yeah.
No, we're an enterprise fund within the town.
Well, somebody in your town does pilot agreements, I know that. Payment in lieu of taxes is like on a solar farm. They're for a 20-year lease, but they depreciate so fast. To make it easier for the town, they'll take the calculation amount of taxes over 20 years and put it out into 20 equal payments. So your payment in lieu of taxes, you're paying the same amount, but you're saying the same amount each year. Nobody will even negotiate that until the project has been approved. Because people won't spend the time, energy, or money to do anything.
Can I jump in a little bit, Jay?
Yeah, you know.
I think there's one thing that Jay and I have been talking, and to answer some of Jeff's questions too. We understand Granby's been reluctant to pass a lot of things in the past.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of money on consultants doing wonderful plans and schemes that never come to fruition because it gets voted down at the town meeting. So we didn't want to do that with this particular project, so we haven't spent anything pretty much on consultants. We did reach out to District 2 because actually District 2 has pipes that are a little closer, but it's a little bit more difficult. And in the long term, we felt the connection going back to the main coming in from Nash Hill as a larger supply and would make more sense. Looping everything, it gives all
Then
kind of
getting the wells
additional
in District 2, you know. using-
possibilities. So we haven't done any engineering on this, we haven't done any negotiations on this in detail because we didn't want to spend money not knowing if it's gonna get rejected anyway at the town meeting.
Or could I just ask, do you foresee any big issues on your end?
So
Like
when this
that you're
issue,
looking
when
up?
this issue came up many moons ago, it was thought that South Hadley would supply the section of Granby and then just bill the customers for that supply. The cost of the infrastructure would be borne on by the town of Granby to be installed.
Right.
So that was scenario number one. Scenario number two, obviously you need, you're talking about fire hydrants, you need fire protection, you need fire lines for commercial buildings over a certain square footage. I think it's 7,500 square feet. So when you design a water system, you're looking for storage, you're looking for tanks, you're looking for the ability to supply all those needs.
Are those all
Since
state
South Hadley has that.
Are those all state requirements?
I don't know if they're state requirements. I think that they're like NFPA guidelines and stuff in terms of having enough supply to
And
supply
Granby
fire.
would pay for their own infrastructure within the town and
Sure.
not
No,
require.
and I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's great. The only question I have, or the only concern that I have, is that the water main that's coming from Ludlow is owned, or from Quabbin, I should say, is owned by South Hadley. So when that water main went in the 50s, you were correct in 51, yep.
51.
There was a connection that's actually left at that intersection you're talking about.
Well, Beth didn't tell us there was an it.
Well, whether it exists currently, I think it's a 12-inch connection. However,
Okay.
the thought process at that time was that South Hadley would meter the water going towards Granby and bill them for that at that time.
See,
How that's changed, or if that's changed in 2019, I really don't know.
I don't know either.
So,
Jeff.
it's a very sticky issue on the MWA side of things. It is.
They're the ones that told us to go ahead in this direction.
Okay.
Because they wanted, if the town is committed to it, then they would start the paperwork on their end. In other words, nobody's gonna invest any money,
Mhm.
nobody's going to do anything until the town has made a commitment. As I stated, no grants go in
Mhm.
until the town's made a commitment. No nothing goes in
Sure.
until the town makes a commitment.
Sure, I was wondering, and I know you're talking about not a commitment, and Dave being a civil engineer, I didn't know if there was any hydraulic calculations, if the sections of Granby that are being talked about to be fed have the capacity or have the ability to be fed pressure-wise and flow-wise off of that existing main. That's a huge thing to
That is
consider.
factored into.
Whether or not, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there are people that are along the pipeline coming from Ludlow and Granby right now that have booster pumps in their cellars in order to give them adequate pressure for their household use.
That engineering was factored into the total amount that we're requesting from the residents. Because again, we didn't want to spend any money up front
It wasn't done.
to have the residents voted down, as Dave stated. But the engineering is in with we got the mile for pipe from South Hadley District 2, because they just did the one on 116?
I was actually texted last night that number, and I'm the one that gave it to District 2 to give to you.
Well, we
Because
had,
we actually just ran a water main down Newton Street,
Oh,
and
okay.
we used plastic pipe. It cost us $213 a foot.
okay.
We did 6,000 feet, do the math, 1.3 million.
Does that include your asphalt or no asphalt?
That was just patching, no overlay of the road, because Mass DOT agreed to do the road overlay.
Same as they did for us.
Okay, you're fortunate to have that agreement, trust me.
Right, that's why we're trying to tell the people,
Sure.
we have an opportunity here that we like to stay ahead of Mass DOT, no different than you did, right? On 116.
Well, we had a gun to our head, but we did it, yep.
Well, we didn't put the gun there.
No, not saying you, but DOT did, that's all.
DOT did it to you? Okay.
Yes.
DOT told us that if we want to do it, because you're well familiar with the 5-year rule,
Mm-hmm.
if you can't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it now, guys. And that's all we're telling to the people. We haven't spent a penny of their money in doing all this research.
And you're fortunate if you get the USDA loan. You're very fortunate. 'cause
They've already-
They don't give them out a lot.
Since Granby's never had one, when we inquired, they said there'd be no problem. I'm just saying the same
I don't know
thing.
if anybody has any questions, but I thank you for allowing me to speak.
We don't have no problem here.
Okay.
No, we have no problem with either community at all.
Yeah.
It's just that we're trying to explain to the residents the benefits, the opportunities, and let them make the decision.
Sure. It's a very complex process,
Yes.
forming your own commission and your own rates and your own infrastructure
Yep.
and what you're gonna charge for entry fees and et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll just give you an example. The town of Reading joined the MWRA, I think 15 years ago, and it cost them $5 million.
Mhm.
And they didn't get one drop of water.
Okay. But again, we're looking and we're doing what we're told to do.
No, I get it. I'm just giving you examples of what has happened or occurred on the MWRA system. That's
And if they ever said that to us, we say, hey, the answer's
all.
no.
Sure.
But the thing
That's what I.
is, we do have a water issue with groundwater,
Mhm.
and you probably realize it as well. I don't know if you guys have same issues as we're having, but like I say, 1/3 of the surface of Granby is already water.
Mhm.
So we have a very high water table. And you know, again, on polluted water off the impervious surfaces and how it can affect everything. And that's what we're trying to get ahead of on the curve here. Because Route 202 is coming from South Valley to Belchertown, whether we want it or not.
All the improvements, yes.
Yes, with the 16 miles of sidewalks, 8 miles on either side, with the 3-foot bike lane, which out in here, we don't see much of a sense of. You probably may or may not disagree with the 3-foot bike lane, but you know what I'm saying, but we don't get to make those choices. It's
I
the
sell
state.
water, I don't care about pipelines.
Yeah, but it's the state and federal laws that we both have to live to, you know what I'm
Sure,
saying?
absolutely.
Yeah, so, as Jeff has stated, he's 100% correct. We haven't invested one penny of your money. We just want permission to go out for this 1.2 million and get permission to do it, is what we're asking you for. Go ahead.
Joe Flanders, 22 Smith Ave. This is here.
Yes, sir.
The pipeline that feeds Hadley,
Yes, sir.
pressure-wise, is not adequate without tanks, right? Backup tanks?
So the pressure, so the water tank that, I'm sorry, the water line that feeds South Hadley
Yeah.
has adequate pressure to get to South Hadley.
So you have to have the tanks.
So the tanks actually, the tanks actually provide pressure for flow and fire protection within the district of South Hadley. And it does have the ability of backfeeding the pipeline to Ludlow, correct?
So what is the average cost of a tank like that?
An average cost of the construction of a water tank today?
Yes.
I guess it would depend on the size. Ours are 1.5 million gallons each, so, and we just painted the inside of one for $500,000. My best guess would probably be in the 5 million range.
So to do an infrastructure, not including South Hadley, and go on our own, in the future, this is definitely something that's gonna have to happen to support as we branch out.
So I would assume that you'd be proactive in getting an engineer's analysis of actually what the needs are for the town in the event that you eventually expand and branch out your own water department to eventually encompass all of Granby, correct?
That is correct.
Right.
We would do that, but again, we didn't want to spend any engineering money to date to bring this to the table for you because of past experiences. I don't know how many times at annual special town meetings, people saying, why are you ordering another study? What are we gonna do with the study, with the money we spent? So we decided to reverse engineer it with MWRA's permission and guidance and the attorneys and say, hey, if the people's willing to commit the money, then we'll worry about spending it later. Does that make sense to you?
Yes and no.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but for
Yes, I
us to,
understand the goodwill you're trying to do to
Yeah.
get what we have. We definitely,
Yeah.
even if we got a loop from Sci Hadley, back over to Sci Hadley, we worked on an agreement
Right.
and got the business point to this thing, it's beneficial to the town.
now, I think you agree, Jeff, if we hook Morgan Street to your line, would get rid of those two stagnant pipes, which.
You actually do us a very, very big favor by filling your tanker for free on the end of Morgan Street to keep fresh water in that main, correct?
Right, see, so it's beneficial, and it's
We don't
just-
charge you for it. You're welcome.
But it has to be flushed, right, Jeff?
Well, it typically would be, but not as routinely as one would guess, but
Yeah.
again, the fire department does help us with that cost.
Yeah. And if we can eliminate that, we eliminate it.
And we flush them once a year,
Yeah.
just as a maintenance practice as well.
Right,
Mhm.
but if it looped, you wouldn't have to worry about flushing, right?
We still would flush it.
Oh, you still would flush it?
Yes, yes, sir.
Because I don't know exact stuff as you
No,
do.
no, no, no.
And to Jeff's point,
Yep,
phase three, there'd probably be a cost-benefit analysis done,
they would have to
whether
be.
we'd go out on our own or
Yep.
continue to buy water from South Hadley.
Well, that's where I'm a little confused, because originally, I began the conversation by saying that you're gonna put a pipeline in and not get fed by us, and then you're gonna phase this eventually, and then hopefully get phase three, and then supply all your mains. So I don't know if it's, you're gonna try to get us to supply the phase one, possibly phase two, and then once that happens, we shut the valves from District One, South Hadley, and then you become your own water system with phase three. There's a
Yeah.
lot of confusion on what the logistics of all that is.
There's a lot more involved
There's a
on
lot of,
on, on phase three, doing what you
Sure.
just said
By the
before
time
the
that
town
happens,
would
I think we'll
consider
both be
that.
retired.
Maybe you, not me. I'm a young guy.
But you can see where we're trying, and that's why we've got no date on phase three.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Gloria.
Riviera, the, North Street, Granby, I probably will never connect to anything anyway. But what we're doing right here, right now, is just voting for permission to further discussion with the state, et cetera, as we
Because
go along.
nobody will talk to you unless you make a commitment. That's what the bottom line is.
Right, that's it.
Nobody will talk to you. Even the MWRA said to us, when Dave and I were talking to them, once you get a commitment for your voters, come back to us. Senator Eric Lesser says, for me to go forward with legislation, I need a commitment. That's what we need, a commitment from the town. Now, if we don't go forward with it, guess what? We don't take out the loan.
We just don't borrow the money.
That's right.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It is that simple. Yeah, no problem. We'll answer anything. We're not hiding a thing. We're not hiding a thing. We're trying to do the best we want for the community. And again, you're gonna decide if our drinking water issue is gonna be fixed by the community or be left up to the private individual with your own well and your own leach field. Because I don't know if you've seen the studies or not with the groundwater coming up, the amount of storm water coming in.
I don't really dive into those avenues just because I have pressurized water lines and.
You're lucky, you don't have to get involved with those.
Yeah.
Right, see, he doesn't have to get involved with,
Sure.
but we do. Because the groundwater is the only way we're living right now. We don't have pipes like Jeff. So we gotta do it that way. And when the state comes out and tells us, this is no good, this is no good, and Dave and I have also heard that EPA and DEP and together are going to be, how do you wanna say, stiffening the regulations, what's a good word?
They don't get any easier.
They don't get no easier. You can guarantee they're not gonna make them any easier in the future. Because Dave now has to do permitting for stormwater, right? He has to, he's a permitting officer in town for just stormwater runoff.
I think I got a couple more questions.
Okay, who was first?
Wrap this up.
Go ahead, Rich.
I just had a quick question. You gave us the impression that phase 3 would hook up to Quabbin and we would bypass South Hadley. Now, he just said South Hadley owns that pipe.
MWRA told us that we have to get the water from the Quabbin, it would come down the pipe, which is owned by South Hadley. MWRA controls the volume, right, Jeff, on how much water comes down?
Excuse me?
MWRA controls the amount of water that comes through the pipe.
My residents do.
Well, but you know, you gotta
Yeah.
get their approval.
Yeah,
And-
we average about 1.1 million a day.
Right, and
One question.
So-
What time is the meeting Monday?
what time?
Yes.
6:30, I believe, at the junior, senior high school.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and then they had to factor in our volume to make sure it would meet within their allotment coming out of the Quabbin.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to mention, is that they cut us back this year on our next 10-year agreement, they cut us back from 3.8 allowable per day to 3.
Yeah.
3 million. So we haven't come anywhere near that, but again, I don't know what the needs are for your system, so that would all have to be part of that calculation.
Right.
And that's an MWRA issue.
It's an
not
MWRA
nothing
issue,
for us.
and they didn't want to get involved with that until the town of Granby made the commitment. And that's all we're asking for, is you people to give us a chance to make a commitment so we can negotiate this and get it done for you. Any other questions? Because we're gonna like to wrap it up if we can.
One last one, Dave. So this $1.2 million
Yep.
is allowing us to get the MWRA to talk to us.
And
If their
South
fee
Hadley.
comes up too high, like happened in another community, this project's dead, the money goes away, we stop.
That's it,
Okay, so I wanna know.
that's it, because we're not asking
So
to
you're
do
pretty
anything.
much doing a loan to allow us to do investigation.
Right, and it also allows us to apply for grants. Part of the grants, you have to have a commitment what you want to do. If you don't have a commitment, you're not allowed to apply for grants. And that's whether it's community compact, mass works, strap, or economic development, you cannot apply for them if you don't have a commitment. So, you give us a chance, we'll try and get more money for you. That's what we're asking for. And at the same time, solve the problems. Okay? Thank you.
Is it gonna solve the problems of flooding though? Like I asked you before on.
The flooding, we're gonna have to work with Mass DOT when they come in for, do their project. Like I know, Jim here is on the planning board, so they'll be coming through him with some of their plans on when they're coming down 202. I mean, that's why, one reason he's on this committee as well. So we got a cross-section. Bill is the Board of Assessors, so he can keep track of it. And Gary, well, he runs a bunch of friendlies, but he's a businessman. We want businessmen on this group to understand dollars, to invest it the best for the people. If that's it, I thank you all for coming. See you on the 4th, and we'll see what happens. I hope it goes forward. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Okay.